Before the age of Instagram psychics, before crystal influencers and digital shamans, there was one woman who turned eternity into a brand. Her name was Helena Blavatsky. To some, a prophet. To others, the first great con artist of the modern soul. She didn't sell products. She sold revelation. Secret maps of the universe written in smoke, mirrors, and stolen gods. 1875, New York. A city choking on industry, science, and loss of meaning. Into that hunger she whispered a new gospel. A patchwork of Hindu myths, Hermetic fragments, and Victorian seance tricks. She called it Theosophy, and the world devoured it. It promised hidden masters in the Himalayas, cosmic evolution through sacred races, and proof that magic was science misunderstood. But behind the candles and Sanskrit words was something older and colder. A blueprint for how to manufacture belief itself. Because what she built wasn't just a movement. It was the prototype for every spiritual empire that came after. The question is not whether she lied. It's whether we're still living inside the story she created. Every cult begins with a mirror. You look into it and mistake your own reflection for a god. Blavatsky understood this. She built her power on projection, the oldest psychic trick in history. The mind hungers for certainty. When the world feels meaningless, it builds altars. And whoever stands beside that altar becomes divine. She called herself a messenger of unseen masters. But the psychology was simple. The more distant the source, the deeper the devotion. Unverifiable, mysterious, comforting. That's the recipe. Authority cloaked in obscurity. Her followers weren't fools. They were human. Wired for story, pattern, and hierarchy. Give the crowd a myth that explains their pain, and they'll trade their skepticism for belonging. It's the authority loop. Charisma feeds mystery. Mystery feeds obedience. Obedience feeds the myth. And the circle closes around you. This isn't just Blavatsky's story. It's the architecture of every belief that grows teeth. From Silicon Valley messiahs to self-help prophets, the same gears still turn. Because what she uncovered, perhaps by accident, wasn't enlightenment. It was the algorithm of faith itself. The danger didn't start in a temple. It started in the brain. Neuroscience has a cruel sense of humor. It shows that belief is not proof, it's prediction. Your mind is a machine for reducing uncertainty. It fills the blank with pattern, wraps chaos in story, and rewards you with a drip of dopamine when the pieces seem to fit. That hit is revelation. That glow you feel when a secret makes sense. It's the same circuit that fires when gamblers almost win. Blavatsky didn't need miracles. She needed meaning, and a crowd wired to crave it. Predictive coding says perception is a controlled hallucination. We see what best explains the noise. So when she said, "The masters are watching," the mind made them real enough. Authority bias did the rest. When a trusted voice repeats the impossible, the brain bends reality to preserve the bond. Loyalty outweighs logic. Dopamine, belonging, confirmation. The holy trinity of manipulation. Each seance, each letter from the Himalayan adepts was a stimulus, and the believer's neurons adapted. Hebbian plasticity. Cells that fire together wire together. Every repetition strengthened the loop. Belief carved into biology. Theosophy wasn't only a philosophy. It was a behavioral experiment written in candlelight, and it worked. Because our nervous systems are still running the same ancient code. New York, 1875. A smoky parlor, thick with incense and rumor. This is where the Theosophical Society was born. Blavatsky, Colonel Henry Olcott, a handful of seekers desperate to fuse science and spirit. She claimed to serve unseen masters in the Himalayas. Letters would appear on tables, mirrors would whisper their answers, and the faithful would tremble at proof that the universe was speaking. Her books followed like scripture. Isis Unveiled, The Secret Doctrine, vast collages of Sanskrit fragments, Hermetic riddles, and Victorian pseudoscience. Hidden wisdom from ancient races. Human evolution mapped through 7 root species, the Aryan as divine culmination. Myth draped over colonial theology. Behind the mysticism lurked a hierarchy. Every myth needs ranks. Every revelation needs a gatekeeper. The masters were perfect for that. Invisible, unchallengeable, forever just out of reach. They were the spiritual equivalent of a paywall. When the Coulomb letters surfaced, accusing Blavatsky of faked miracles, she claimed persecution by dark forces. And the persecution made her legend grow. Doubt became proof of her power. Exposure became initiation. Her genius was simple. Wrap a claim in cosmic language until disbelief feels like heresy. Theosophy spread fast. To London drawing rooms, Indian lodges, German mystics. It mutated into anthroposophy, Rosicrucian revivals, and the early blueprint for the New Age. An empire of ideas. Selling the promise that enlightenment could be franchised. What she built wasn't just a cult. It was a mimetic organism. A self-replicating belief system designed to survive exposure. And it's still breathing through every starseed, every light worker, every guru who claims a cosmic hotline. Because once the machinery exists, anyone can climb inside it and wear a halo. Here's the twist. Blavatsky wasn't only selling lies. She was performing a ritual of belief itself. Every seance, every Mahatma letter, each one was a symbolic act, a rite that summoned conviction out of thin air. The magician's circle wasn't chalk and incense. It was attention, And attention is the oldest altar there is. When thousands focused on the same myth, they fed it. They gave it psychic mass, an egregore, a living thought form sustained by fascination. The masters of wisdom became more than fiction. They became autonomous, ideas that could write back. That's how mimetic entities work. You repeat them enough, and they start to repeat you. Blavatsky may have believed she was channeling them, but she had conjured them. She built a psychic feedback loop between imagination and reality. The Grift worked because it followed the logic of ritual, repetition, symbol, emotion. Belief crystallized into form. Theosophy wasn't just philosophy. It was a spell cast on a century. From that spell, the entire new age was born. Ascended masters, cosmic hierarchies, the promise that knowledge could make you divine. But the revelation is darker. Belief is magic. And whoever controls the symbols controls the believers. She proved that the boundary between prophet and fraud is only ritual performance and audience participation. Because when you understand how faith is built, you can build anything, even gods. Let's try something. A small ritual of clarity. Close your eyes. Think of a time someone told you you were chosen. Maybe a teacher, a lover, a voice in a dream. Feel what happened inside you. That rush, that subtle click of certainty. The moment the universe seemed to narrow around one shining truth. Now, ask yourself, was that intuition or influence? That tension you feel right now? That's the master forming, not above you. Inside you, it's the architecture of devotion, the same reflex that built temples and cults alike. Now give it a name. Whisper it once. Because when you name the presence, you break the spell. Theosophy thrived because its believers never named the process. They confused emotion for evidence, mystery for mastery. This ritual is the opposite. Naming the trance collapses it. That's cognitive exorcism, not faith, but sight. And as you breathe, feel the authority dissolve. The altar empties. The mirror clears. You're still here. And that is how you reclaim this space where gods are made. History is kind to magicians. It forgets the trapdoors and remembers the thunder. Blavatsky wrapped her ambition in incense and Sanskrit, and the world mistook the smoke for divinity. They said she was brilliant, and she was. They said she was sincere, and perhaps she believed every word. But belief, when weaponized, is indistinguishable from deceit. She didn't need to invent gods, only to name them. And once named, they obeyed. This is the quiet horror of charisma. It wears the face of revelation. It moves like love. It builds cathedrals out of projection. The danger isn't in what she claimed, but in what her story proved possible. that one person with conviction and poetry can bend a century's imagination. Theosophy became a seed crystal for every modern revelation, a template for movements that promise awakening and deliver allegiance. She played the part of a visionary, but beneath the robes stood a technician of trance, a builder of thought forms so seductive. They still haunt the circuitry of culture. The lesson isn't to hate her. It's to recognize the design. Because once you see how the machinery works, you can never kneel before it again. She didn't just begin a movement. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky built a prototype, a spiritual brand, an architecture of faith built to replicate itself. The myth of hidden masters, the promise of secret knowledge, the gleam of occult technology wrapped in the language of revelation. Look closely. This is the birth of the spiritual industrial complex, where belief becomes product, revelation becomes revenue, metaphysics becomes marketing. The brain loves closure. Feed it a master, a map, an insider secret, and you've written a perfect feedback loop. Neurons fire, dopamine surges, identity rewires. That was the real invention. Theosophy wasn't philosophy. It was the first viral thought form, and the thought form learned to monetize itself. From that seed grew every lightworker, every digital mystic, every guru promising transcendence behind a paywall. The symbols changed, but the circuitry stayed the same. Yet even this machine of belief leaves strange artifacts behind. Symbols that still hum with energy. Metaphors that outlive their makers. There can be value in encountering them. Not as truth, but as story. Not as doctrine, but as imaginative mirror. Take the archons of Gnostic myth. Mysterious powers said to rule material reality. Read today, they resemble systems of control. Industries that shape perception. Economies that colonize attention. Seen that way, Blavatsky's cosmos becomes allegory. A speculative fiction about how minds can be captured, how imagination becomes infrastructure. Treat it as you would a myth or a dream, and it still has the power to reveal. Not because it's real, but because it shows how reality can be written. The value lies in that recognition, that even deception can map the contours of truth, and that understanding the grift is sometimes the surest path to waking up. But what if, just for 1 second, we suspend disbelief? What if everything she claimed, that giants once ruled the earth, that reptilian beings control our minds, was true? Well, I don't care who you are, what you've experienced in seances, psychedelic journeys, psychic readings. Let me make one thing clear. No matter how much you believe something about anything, that does not make it true. Think on that. You have been handed maps, some drawn in light, some drawn in shadow, and some drawn in the space between. Now, here is your move. When you feel the pull of the master, the voice of the hidden giver of secrets. Stand up. Don't kneel. Because the greatest ritual of all is not joining a brotherhood. It's remembering you already belong. You already witness. You already decide. There will always be new masters, new doctrines, new hidden circles promising liberation through submission. They wear different names, different sigils, but the algorithm is the same. Release it. Disarm the trance of authority. See the master as mirror. See the doctrine as door. Then choose whether to walk through or turn it around. Subscribe. Turn on notifications. Spread the code. We are raising a channel of rebellion, a place where myth meets neuroscience, where occult psychology meets awakening. Join the ones who refuse to kneel. See the filter. Break the pattern. And build your horizon. Because the future of belief is not about mastering secrets. It's about mastering yourself. This is your rally cry. This is your circle. And together, we will shock the psyche. Subscribe now. Let's go deep. If this video shifted something in your mind, you're ready for the next level. Download my free ritual guide in the description. No catch, just pure psychological alchemy you can use tonight. If you want to go deeper, hit the initiation playlist. It's your step-by-step journey into breaking unconscious patterns and mastering your own mind. Both links are waiting below. Your transformation starts now. Until next time.